Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
While Trump was in Davos in Switzerland at the Kiss the Ring ceremony that he and Newsom and others attended, the World Economic Forum really truly is a globalist organization that's trying to get billionaires to run the society the way they would desire to and milk whatever revenue they can out of it. And it's totally an un-Americanist kind of philosophy. It's not based anything upon what our foundation is and how we keep good government and keep it out of our face and all that kind of stuff. But at any rate, so while he was there at the World Economic Forum, he announced what he terms as a board of peace. And he's been inviting some countries to join. He's ignored others. He's already booted some people off that he invited initially. And board of peace, what is this? A new United Nations dream? I mean, is it actually what it is? It's a new pathway to the New World Order, I think. And all of this stuff that's going on there.
It's really global government Trump's style, as opposed to global government somebody else's style, like Klaus Schwab or somebody else. He just wants to see the world remade in his image and not in somebody else's image. That's really the same thing with the Republicans and Democrats. They both want to take us to socialism. They just seem to have different ways of going about it, right? One wants communism. One wants socialism. One wants fascism, but they both lead to communism, right? I mean, that's really the bottom line that I see from these people.
Well, this global governance move would have us set aside our United States Constitution. And so Trump is over there saying, oh, yeah, this is kind of a sweet little deal. I'm going to get a peace prize one way or the other. But the fact of the matter is that that it's in violation of the very basis upon which the United States came into existence. We've talked on your show before about the 1648 Westphalian Treaty, wherein the powers of the world got together and said, all nations are on an equal footing. There are no second-class nations. And there may be no intervention by any other outside source, supranational, church, United Nations, NATO, whomever, on the internal affairs of a country. Just like the United States right now is.
Animal Farm hit, and we just realized some are the same as everybody else, but just special, right?
Right. But there are no second-class nations. There is no first-class nation. Nobody elected or chose or whatever United States to be the adjudicator of all things. It simply is not it. We're a nation among nations. Go read the last few paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence, and we are a nation among nations. We can do all the things, and that's what we expected to do. And now that what we're trying to do is have other nations bow to our will. Now, this is a really interesting scenario. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The United Nations ought to be. We ought to get out of the United Nations.
I was hoping that it would either abolish the IRS, abolish the Federal Reserve, or get out of the UN for Christmas, but none of it happened. Donald didn't even shut down any single government entity or agency.
Absolutely correct.
Unconstitutional. He didn't shut down any of them, people. And he has no plans to, as far as I can tell.
You know, the United States has always sought to manipulate the United Nations into its purposes. Okay. I remember I was sitting in front of a sitting United States senator about 30 years ago, and I was beefing about us being in the United Nations and all this kind of stuff. And he says, let me tell you something, son. That's our United Nations. We are going to manipulate that for our own purposes, and you need to get used to us being able to use it that way. And of course, the subject of that came up of why in the heck are we so engaged in the Middle Eastern oil stuff and wars that are there and everything. He says, let me tell you something, son. I happen to be younger than him. He's long since dead. So anyway, people get old and die. But the fact of the matter, he says, let me tell you something, son. That oil's our oil, and we're going to get it and we're going to use it. Of course, that's what Trump's doing. He's taking it out of Venezuela, claiming it. He's taking it out of Syria because we've got the oil fields there. Who knows what's going to happen in Iran? Iran was taken over in the 1940s by the Soviet Union and the Brits, so they would have access to oil. It's one of those things where there's always somebody trying to, kind of grab power in nations that are a little bit less than stable so that they can have the full power. And so what is this board of peace that he's doing? He never invited Russia. He disinvited Canada, and it's kind of like,
and he's telling everybody else they can just pay $1 billion and be kind of a long-term member. Otherwise, you're just kind of temporarily in and out, right?
Well, you know what? If they're talking about a membership fee, it's just another money-making kind of thing. It's kind of like him selling U.S. citizenship. Think about this. Hey, if somebody comes in and they buy a gold card for this kind of thing, they can be a U.S. citizen. How many billionaire drug cartel leaders do we have? They could buy their whole family, an entire community with the U.S. citizenship program, citizenship for sale, so that we can get these unsavory characters embedded in our society.
Have an internal beachhead to continue the invasion, basically, where we've kind of paved the way with some of this if we're not very careful as well. But what's going to happen with Trump's framework on Greenland? He went there saying we're going to take Greenland by hook or by crook, going to do it by force if we have to. He went in saying that. He walked out going, got a deal. He's long on headliners, short on details, though, Doctor.
Well,
what does the deal mean?
Why should he change his modus operandi right now? I mean, everything he's done. I'm going to abolish the IRS. I'm going to no tax on, Social Security. I'm going to be this and that and the other. And it's not a wave of a wand. But at any rate, this particular issue with Greenland is, now maybe I've missed something. I mean, I got to say, I try to watch these things carefully, but to tell you the truth, I have seen zero additional information, long on promise, short on details. And I think what happened there is he probably had a grave misunderstanding about something. And that something was this military exercise that was going on in Greenland, that he said, I'll show those turkeys, we're going to put tariffs on everybody. He jumped, it's fire, ready, aim. Come to find out, we had been invited to participate in this particular exercise. We had declined to do so. It was a minimalist kind of thing. It was not a thumb your nose at the United States kind of thing. And so he's throwing out the tariff agreement from last summer, which he unconstitutionally implemented, and which Europe agreed to. And now he's saying he's going to do more. And then he gets over to Davos, and it's suddenly, all this doesn't apply. He's got to have a retreat position, and he can't be blustering and buffoonery and all that kind of stuff, and then suddenly change his position. So I think that the spin doctors got a hold of it. I said, we're going to solve this Greenland thing. We've got a framework to do it. Let's just move ahead. And he announces this headline kind of thing.
Let's let Donald go there, get his head handed to him, and then walk out claiming he's got a victory out of it. Time will tell what that really means and what that looks like, but I'm not comfortable with it. And I don't really like the president unilaterally just, what is this? It's not an agreement, right?
It's not a treaty. Okay. It's nothing.
It's not a treaty. What is it? It's a framework, he says. Well, you tie that with the proposed Board of Peace, which again is a way to get President Trump chairmanship of this thing, put him in charge of a global power structure without any approval from Congress, because it's not an agreement, it's not a treaty, it's not a this, it's not a that. And so these two things, whether it be the framework for Greenland or whether it be the Board of Peace, in either case, I don't really see that it constitutionally makes sense. He's basically, in my opinion, short-circuited the system and kept Congress out of the loop, right?
Well, the president, he can't make treaties. He can get them approved once,
but he can create boards and he can create frameworks and he can, right? We're just playing games with words now.
Well, we are, and is Board of Peace just a euphemism for a new United Nations? There is no sum or substance to any of this kind of stuff, and it's all just, as you called it, headlines. And I haven't found any substance. But here's the thing with the Board of Peace. If I understand correctly, there's 50 something, maybe 59, I don't know, nations that have been kind of tapped for this thing. And it sounds like they're going to have their first test cases where they take over the whole Gaza Strip and they manage that place. And suddenly it becomes, I don't know if they're going to turn it into the Riviera of the Mediterranean that they wanted, they've been talking about, turn it into a gold mine for hotels and,
Yeah, it'll be like Dubai for a different group of people.
Maybe, but the fact of the matter is, if you look at that Westphalian Treaty of 1648, no other nations can impose their will internally on others. Okay, there's no second-class nations where somebody has to manage them or anything like that. They're in or they're out with their own 2 feet. But it sounds like they're going to try and take this and make this kind of a globalist, internationalist kind of thing, and that probably their first dinking around kind of objective is going to be in Gaza. But here's a people that have been there for thousands of years, and suddenly we're going to have, 59 nations telling them what to do? I don't know.
It ain't going to go well, I can promise you that, ladies and gentlemen. When we get back, we're going to talk about Trump shifting gears into election mode. Hang tight.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at CSPOA.org. That's CSPOA.org.
Scott Bradley here. Most Americans are painfully aware that the nation is on the wrong track and in dire straits. Unfortunately, most political pundits only nibble around the edges when they claim to address the issues. Even worse, many of the so-called solutions are simply rewarmed servings of what got us into the mess we currently face. And the politicians think we're so gullible and naive that we'll buy their lies that they have reformed and now understand where they led us astray. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that they simply wish to continue to hold power. The solution to America's challenges is found in returning to the timeless principles found in the United States Constitution. My book and lecture series will reawaken in Americans an understanding and love of the principles which made this nation the freest, most prosperous, happiest, and most respected nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com and order my book and lectures to begin the restoration of this great nation.
Headline, they talked about it last night at the webinar. Trump shifts gears into election mode for upcoming midterm elections. So in my opinion, Donald spent the first year dealing with international affairs. Didn't do much domestically, really. They say they passed the big, beautiful bill, and it's got some tax cuts in it, and that's great, but not near enough tax cuts to offset the out-of-control tariffs that are happening. And at the end of the day, though, so he's going to switch from international on his first year to elections for his second year, never doing much for the people domestically. And I don't really expect him to do much for me, except for try to get government out of the way and leave me alone, Doctor.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that isn't the purpose of government is not to really lord over anybody. It's there to preserve individual God-given rights.
Yeah, just leave me alone. Just stay out of the way, create a level playing field, get out of the way, and let me just prosper on my own. But they've got me ratcheted down 96 ways from Sunday.
They do. And everything that they're doing nowadays that's extra constitutional is a violation not only of their oath, but it also puts further tyranny on America. And we're pretty much a Mother May I society. But historically, coming up on this midterm election, virtually every president, I mean, it's a huge majority of the presidents that have gone into into a midterm election, their party has lost seats in the Congress. And I'm pretty much of the opinion that if the election were held today, the Republicans would be spanked pretty bad in the House. I don't think they'll lose the Senate. I think because of the way the Senate election, a third and a third and a third, is set up, the chances of it changing hands is slim and none. But in the House, I mean, literally every House seat is up for grabs. And I think as it stands right now, I think Trump knows that they're in big bad trouble. And watching the pollsters and what they're saying, a lot of things are in the tank, and a lot of this is because of all of his self-created noise. I mean, he's got not only standing armies. I mean, if you watch the news, you think standing armies are marching across the major cities in the United States, and that's an irritant, and it violates the Constitution. Whether it's a fact or not, I think could be debated. But the fact is that they've spent an awful lot of noise on that. They put an awful lot of noise on all of these international things, from Greenland that we've been talking about to Venezuela, where we're kidnapping someone out of a sovereign nation and bringing him to the United States, and where we're piracy on the high seas, taking these flagged vehicles. Actually, a ship is kind of a territory. A floating territory of the flag that it carries. Stuff like that's going on incessantly. The idea of the bombing
we're
of Iran.
acting internationally as the big bully. We're pretending we're the world's police. We're literally violating the sovereignty of nation after nation after nation after nation. Now that Donald Trump's shifting to election mode, though, I don't really know what him and the Republicans are going to tell us they've accomplished for us. They're going to say, we've cranked up the border, and I say they're right, good for them. Trump's going to say, I've been more pro-life than everybody else. I think to a great degree, we should go a lot further in that, but he has done a lot of good there. But at the end of the day, I think Congress has been derelict in their duty, missing in action for the most part. Right now, government's going to shut down, not because it has to. They've brokered a deal. Not that I support the deal they brokered, but hey, Congress isn't even there, so they can't do it. The House is on recess again. Hey, man, these clowns just started work a few days ago. They were on a big old recess before, and then they come back January, whatever it is, 5th, 6th, whatever, and then they work for 20 days, and now they're gone again. And now it's an election year, so they're going to be gone all year long for elections. And, I mean, this is just disaster, folks. Trump forgot about we the people. He forgot about decreasing the size and scope of government. But now we're meddling in Cuba. Trump declares national emergency over, quote, Cuban threat, writes Russia Today. U.S. President Trump has declared a national emergency. He's threatened to impose steep tariffs on any country supplying oil to Cuba, dramatically escalating pressure on Cuba and on everyone else. So the Venezuelan oil, seizure, whatever you want to call it, after getting Maduro, has put tremendous pressure on Cuba. That's what they were getting most of their oil from and everything else, right? The U.S. has set its sights on Cuba, which Trump claims is ready to fall next. He basically gave Cuba this special, I don't know what you want to call it, a special status of a great threat to the United States. The United States, quote, has zero tolerance for the communist Cuban regime, the order states. And they say that the actions of the Cuban government directly threaten the United States. The White House, in a fact sheet, blamed the emergency declaration as a, quote, necessary response, saying that, hey, Cubans are pretty much a beachhead for Russia, so to speak. It also accused Havana of spreading communist influence in our hemisphere. Of course, the Cuban leader remains defiant, saying the harshness of these times and the brutality of the threats against Cuba will not hold us back, they say. Cuba's been under a trade embargo for a long time and everything else, and now we're going to ratchet that up. Can we find more nations to ratchet relations up with, Doctor? I mean, it just seems like everybody's an enemy, right?
Well, they seem like they're bent on trying to facilitate that attitude. What is it, 1959, 1960, 1961, 62, 63? I mean, here we go. Cuba has been on the ropes forever. And this stuff is strictly and completely Bravo Sierra. There is come on. That country can't hardly tie its shoelaces itself, let alone mount some national security issue against the United States, unless we completely force them. So they take what little GDP they have and put it all in some targeted... Are they a greater
threat right now be different than, say, a month ago?
Absolutely not.
See,
There's
that's
no
the problem
threats.
that I'm having is all of a sudden, how did we escalate this into it's a massive threat right now and it hasn't been for the last, whatever, since the Bay of Pigs, whatever. All I'm saying is it seems like we want regime change all over the place. And it's going to spectacularly backfire, Doctor. I'm telling you right now, in 10, 20, whatever years, we're going to be wishing, all I'm telling you is I think we're just going to escalate around the world. We're going to end up in a war. I don't want to, but you just can't provoke that many people and have nothing happen.
Well, the president got elected by, no more eternal wars, no more nation building. And there's been nothing but that going on around the world. And the fact of the matter is that let's just say we do a regime change in Cuba. And let's just say that somehow, some way, it becomes another.
Marco Rubio might become the president of Cuba. What do you think of that?
Holy cow! I thought he was going to be the president of Greenland. But at any rate, the fact of the matter is, Puerto Rico is a thorn in our side.
I thought Taylor Green was going to be Greenland.
Say again?
I thought Taylor Green was going to be Greenland.
I have no idea. But the fact of the matter is that we have this belligerent, empire-building kind of mentality. Regime change, that is un-American to the core. And it's kind of like, okay, Trump, if you're going to get something done in the United States, you got to focus domestically. You can't be trying to overthrow every regime.
Hey, we've virtually done nothing domestically, sir. Nothing, really.
Well, absolutely not. Congress hasn't been in session really for 30 days during the past year. They say they were, but they've been completely broke down. What have they done? They passed a big, beautiful bill, which should never have been passed anyway. And what do they have?
We have almost as many executive orders as we do legislative votes, even.
That's probably some truth to that. I'd like to go measure that. But the fact of the matter is,
there's more votes than there are executive orders, but not by a lot.
Yeah, the president has unilaterally acted as a monarch, and it's not his job. In fact, let's just take a little bit of a side trip that's related, though. It could happen even this week. I don't know. It might be first part of next month. I don't know. But I think if the Supreme Court follows the Constitution, they're going, and which is always a question, I know, and I've got to kind of roll my eyes every time something comes out that somebody held their mouth a certain way to get it. But if they follow the Constitution, they'll tell Trump he ain't the guy that does tariffs. And go back and look, Article 1, Section 8, it states it very Congress shall have power too. And the president does not do that. They delegated certain emergency powers to me. And Congress can't delegate emergency powers.
They don't have the authority to do that. So I got a question for you. One of the things that the administration is accusing Havana of, they also accused Havana of spreading communist influence in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, I get that. I think it's probably true. But isn't the United States spreading socialism and spreading fascism, which really those roads lead to communism? Aren't we literally doing the same thing?
Well, it seems like everybody's a socialist now in our leadership. And I know. I'm present company accepted. There's a few others that are out there, but literally the redistributive program that, let's look at what they're doing with the medical, shall we say, subsidies that they're putting out. Look what they're doing when they control the way drug companies do things. None of these things are delegated to the United States government.
Yeah, there's zero authority.
Through the Constitution. Zero authority. And so, we're, you could say, well, our country's about as big a socialist country as they got. It's still got some elements of the free market that operate in, but so does Russia. And so does Ukraine. Oligarchs are doing it there.
All right. Don't worry, though. There's a stunning Epstein twist with Ghislaine and company. We'll tell you about that coming up. You're watching the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live, syndicated by LovingLiberty.net. All right, I'll be
How
right
would you
back.
like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. His presence inside a Minneapolis church during an anti-ICE protest earlier this month has gotten ex-CNN personality Don Lemon arrested. The raucous demonstration disrupted a service in progress and upset congregants, children among them. Lemon's attorney says his client will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. The Eastern Carolinas are bracing for another wintry blast. Snow and high winds expected as early as tonight. Arctic cold continues to hold much of the country in its icy grip. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves says time to be a good neighbor.
The National Weather Service is forecasting another weekend of extremely cold temperatures. The state of Mississippi encourages all of you to please continue to check on family, on friends, and neighbors.
Because cold of this magnitude can be life-threatening. President Trump says he'll nominate Kevin Warsh to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve.
Warsh is a former Fed governor who was appointed to the board by President George W. Bush. At the time, Warsh was 35 years old, making him the youngest governor in history. In the past, Warsh supported higher interest rates to control inflation. More recently, however, he has said he supports lower rates, an approach backed by President Trump. Warsh would replace Chairman Jerome Powell when his term expires in May. His appointment requires Senate confirmation. Greg Clugston, Washington.
A New York judge has ruled that Luigi Mangione should not face the death penalty if convicted of charges in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, gunned down on a New York City street in December of 2024. On Wall Street this hour, the Dow is down 170 points, the Nasdaq 44 points lower. More on these stories at townhall.com.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Benjamin Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G service. What's up with that? Ben Franklin wasn't even a president. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be in business with an American wireless company that supports our vets in a big way and keeps all their customer service in this country. That's important. And you'll be on the same towers the big carriers use, so you'll get the same 5G service without the inflated price. So hang on to your Benjamins and switch to Pure Talk for a Jackson and a Lincoln. No contract, no hidden fees. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll get 50% off your first month when you switch. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, for an American wireless company that is truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt. And there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
Get ready to be part of something incredible. We're breaking barriers and delivering the powerful stories that mainstream media won't touch. Your support is what fuels our mission to revolutionize journalism and bring you the truth. Join our passionate community of changemakers by donating at libertynewsradio.com today. Together, we're creating the future of news.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
All right, it's Sam Bushman and the Good Doctor. Dr. Scott Bradley, freedomsrisingsun.com with us. The Daily Mail's calling it a stunning Epstein twist. A stunning Epstein twist. As Ghislaine Maxwell now claims that 29 friends cut, quote, secret deals with the DOJ, ladies and gentlemen. Maxwell argues that the alleged concealment of these deals undermined the fairness of her trial and violated her constitutional rights. New evidence reveals that there were 25 men, which the plaintiff's lawyers reached secret settlements, and they say that they could be considered co-conspirators. The legal document states none of these men have been prosecuted. None have them been revealed to the petitioner. She said, if I knew about them before, I would have called them as witnesses. But she never got the info. Anyway, what do you say to all this, Doctor? The plot thickens with the Epstein files where there's nothing to see move along, huh?
Well, you know that we've been told that Bravo Sierra for so many years now. It's what am I expecting but something like this? You know, think about this for just a minute. If Maxwell and Epstein are the only two that trafficked young women or anybody, I mean, I guess they could have boys in there too. But if they were the only two, is that trafficking? Or is it some kind of pedophile sex ring? I don't know. But it's just a very, very small circle of people that were involved in this thing. It's been an absolute fabrication that nobody else was involved in this. The fact that there's millions of documents out there and nobody else has been named. They get redacted page by page.
Don't worry, they're going to release them, Doctor. They're coming up, just so you know.
Well, I tell you, I'm getting tired of waiting. But the fact of the matter is, none of this story makes any sense. I mean, Epstein gets strangled in his cell, and they say it was suicide, and there's no evidence whatsoever about that. The cameras failed at the right time. The guys that were guards were asleep at the right time. I mean, this thing is just, if it wasn't so tragic, it'd be a comedy of errors. Justice is being pushed out. And by the way, that is one of the things that we could have talked about earlier about some of this noise that has been created and that Trump has facilitated, not just internationally, but domestically. People are still asking about this particular travesty. It's not going away. And people ought to say, well, this is the way 29 have cut secret deals. I mean, if there's 29, there's probably 290. I don't know. But we're just not getting what was promised and transparency. And I wish that someone would just say, okay, I'm releasing these. We're going to see where it goes. Boom, boom, boom. These people, these were the ones that were the pedophiles.
It's games, and more games. So now Pam Bondi says, hey, we've been working through these 1 million+ documents and we're about to release them. Is that the kind of documents that were on her desk before that then she said didn't exist and all this kind of stuff? The problem is these people can't be trusted, Doctor. That's the real problem.
No, there's been obfuscation and just basically deflection and denial and flat out lying. And I'm, again, all of this stuff, you could run it through and get it, your grand juries and you get your indictments and take it to court. But we're not getting anybody that's going through that process. And the pages that I have seen, now I've probably seen the worst case scenarios, but the pages that I've seen that have been released, I mean,
worthless. You can't get anything.
If they're redacted to the nth degree, they might have a date on them or something like that. I mean, there's nothing there. They could have handed me a black particle board, painted black with flat black, and I'd have just as much information on it. There's just nothing coming.
Well, and that's the problem, and that's why they're dishonestly, manipulating and violating the rule of law. It's a serious problem. And when we say, hey, none of these men have been prosecuted, none have been revealed to the petitioner either. She said she would have called them as witnesses if she had known. I'm not here to defend Ghislaine either. All I'm telling you is, folks, we're being punked on this thing, and you're never going to get to the bottom of the Charlie Kirk assassination. You're never going to get to the bottom of the JFK assassination. You're never going to get to the bottom of this scandal either. You want to know why? Because there's people above the law, and they don't want you to. That's why.
There's a protection scheme going on. There's got to be. And there are people in high places. I think there's international involvement in this, that there's leverage being played. There's people that are right now, I believe, that sit in office that are scared to death if their name comes out. And so they're saying, hey, if you protect me, I'll give you whatever you want. I think that they're leveraging their position to keep their butts out of a sling.
It's a sad reality, ladies and gentlemen, but that's what I'm seeing. So I want to kind of bring this up and kind of suggest, what do you think the Republicans can do between now and the midterm? Some are saying, hey, it's time to go big Congress or go home, baby. What do you think could be done that could say, hey, it's worth pushing to make sure we have a Republican retained majority? What would they need to do to make you feel that way, Doctor?
I think that they're going about it the whole wrong way, honestly. I think you asked me what they can do, and I'm not sure they can do anything. If they continue with the same mentality they have, they're running Trump on the ticket is what they're really doing. He's making every effort to have if your name's on there and it's associated with Trump, he's going to say, that's the way you make sure you keep my agenda going forward. My question would be, okay, tell me what your agenda is. No more wars. Let's do this thing.
Hold on. The Republicans don't really have an agenda, and that's my whole point. That's the problem. They need an agenda, Doctor, and the agenda needs to be not playing games. They're about to continue the government right now. All they're going to do is cave and spend us into oblivion again right now.
Well,
they're not cutting. They need to cut spending big time, and they're not doing it. They need to shut down government. Look, Donald Trump promised gun-free zones first day. Congress, get it done. Get rid of gun-free zones. Okay, there's things that could be done that would really move the needle, but you've got to do a few of them. And now they're in election mode, so they're like, oh, we'll have to worry about that after the midterms. After we win the midterms, we're going to really get it done now. Okay, you got to shut down government health care entirely? Absolutely. They're not doing that either. They're about to vote abortions and Obamacare and everything else back into place. I mean, this is disaster. And they're, unless they get a real agenda that we can count on, it's going to be very tough for them. And they don't have that I can see.
Well, the bills that I have seen basically are a rehash of what's been going on for the last 30 years. I mean,
yeah, which is worthless.
Slight nuances of this and that and the other and everything like that. Okay, so where's the beef? You remember that old commercial? Where's the beef? Well,
your beef costs a lot more. I can tell you that.
That's for sure. They've got to differentiate themselves. And by the way, that beef costing more is not something that happened in the last year. I mean, that's been something that's with our profligate creation of American dollars, we've got more dollars chasing the same product that's out there. So beef costs more, gold costs more, houses cost more. You name a subject, it costs more.
Don't worry, eggs are down. It's okay.
And I'll tell you why the eggs are down. They quit killing all the chickens and let them come to breeding and laying age again. They killed millions of chickens on a farcical idea, and the egg price went way high. And now you got more baby chickens that have grown up to hens that are having eggs, and that's why the eggs are down. It's because of supply and demand. It's not because they've fixed some.
You know it's because Trump is awesome, don't you? You understand that.
I keep hearing that from him.
Anyway, we're not trying to attack President Trump, ladies and gentlemen, or we're not trying to attack anybody. What we're trying to do really is position the discussions to be constitutional in nature. And if you want solutions to the problems we face, it's about God, family, and country. It's about civil people standing up for principle every time, unequivocally standing tall on principle. And it's something that we need to do. These men have not been prosecuted in the Ghislaine Maxwell thing. They need to be prosecuted. How we worked on some special privilege to give them protection for some of the most heinous crimes in the world, which is abuse of children, human trafficking, sex trafficking, all this kind of stuff, is insanity. But then we, deal with the international world. We lie about this. We shut down everything. Kash Patel really wanted to make a difference. I don't see that he's done much. Jan Bongino got so sick of it, he walked. You look at these things and you go, the more things change, the more they stay the same, Doctor? Is that what we're experiencing?
Well, and you're right with Bongino. He may have just thrown his hands in the air and finally says, you know what? I'm going to go do something productive. I'm sitting there. I
can't do what I promised I would do here, and I'm under gag order to where I can't even speak about what I've discovered, really. And so I'm just out. I just can't take it anymore. And that's really the case. Most of these people are under gag orders. They can't really even speak out or blow whistle or anything else. Or, hey, they'll be destroyed, possibly in jail.
Absolutely. I mean, if you put the handcuffs on them as they come in the room, and then you expect them to move about and do what they were hired to do, and it's just not happening. A guy like Elon Musk probably got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that's why he bailed on the Doge thing. And the Congress has not made legislative changes that will allow the Doge changes to happen.
Amen.
They say, we're going to save you billions.
That's why they're derelict in their duty. But look, we've got way too much water coming across the southeast, another storm coming this weekend and more. But Utah and Nevada need water, so they've got a plan. We'll tell you about it in seconds. Dr. Bradley and yours truly on Liberty Roundtable Live.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began. Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Experience the untamed spirit of the American West with Range Magazine. Each issue is a visual journey featuring award-winning photography and compelling stories that capture the heart of ranching and rural life. Stay informed on the challenges and triumphs of those who live and work on the land. Subscribe today and receive quarterly editions delivered to your doorstep, and join a community that cherishes the enduring legacy of the Western frontier. Visit rangemagazine.com to subscribe.
All right, I got this piece from yournews.com. Good friends over there doing a good job. Nevada and Utah expand cloud seeding efforts to bolster the water supplies. So while the Southeast has too much water, we ain't got enough. Western states are now investing millions and millions of dollars into weather modification technology. Their goal is to increase precipitation and stretch limited water resources, they say. They say amid long-term drought pressures, the Nevada and Utah states are expanding the use of cloud seeding operations. They've got state-funded programs, and they're using this weather modification technology to get this done. In Nevada, they say cloud seeding operations are conducted by the Desert Research Institute, which manages generators, they say, placed at strategic locations across the state. The program, supported by state funding, and it's supposed to, try to grab water as the storms go by. Utah has launched, they say, what state officials describe as the largest cloud seeding research effort ever undertaken. Wow. They say scientists are studying the effectiveness of the technology. They're looking for positive outcomes. Cloud seeding relies on continuous monitoring of the weather conditions by climatologists who activate what they say ground-based generators when appropriate storms are present. And the generators inject this, what do they call this? Silver iodine particles. And then they say it'll, eventually force snow or rain to happen. It was accidentally discovered in the late 1940s. And they say they have one Nevada cloud seeding generator. It was installed on Mount Potosi. Is that how you say the mountain? Anyway, with a goal of increasing rain. And they say, they're getting about a 12% increase when they do this. Utah's program has grown significantly in scope, with officials saying that the state now operates the world's largest remote control cloud seeding system. Yeah, Utah State University, the University of Utah are using lasers. Yeah. Base instrument. They're targeting storms more effectively. They're extracting the water from them. Anyway, Jonathan Jennings, he's a meteorologist. He said long-term studies indicate that cloud seeding can produce meaningful gains over time. They say they can gain about a 12% increase by doing this. Doctor, they're ignoring all the repercussions as they play God, is what I have to say.
Sam, I'm probably a skeptic on a lot of things. I have an aphorism I've used for decades. It's basically distrust until verified. And so I seem maybe to be the wrong guy to ask about stuff like this, because I am a skeptic about everything. Are these the same people that are saying we're all going to die because in 2010 the world would be so inundated with water that everybody was going to be breathing through a straw? Are these the same people that have been dinking around with the chemtrails? And I think the chemtrails, by the way, this is a personal observation after having some years of studying this, that the chemtrail approach that is being used across basically the whole world as a global warming kind of solution, which it has proven not to be, what that basically does, I think, is put nanoparticles into the skies. And let's say in Utah and Nevada, because as we're talking about that, I think the chemtrails have adversely affected the watershed for those states, because as these chemtrails are put out over California, these nanoparticles, water molecules cling to those things as they're carried across the Great Basin until there's a critical mass that allows them to precipitate out of the sky. And I've talked with a lot of weather climatologist kind of guys on this kind of stuff, and I think there's something to this concept where they're retaining water on those particles as they pass over these dry states of Nevada and Utah, and they get out in the Midwest, and by that time they have collected enough moisture to have a critical weight that allows them to precipitate out. And you talk about all this horrifically bad climate stuff, water and all that, the storms that are happening.
And what repercussions are going to happen with it? This Desert Research Institute says that its network of generators already adds, listen, billions of gallons of water to Nevada's supply each year. They say in 2023, for example, the Nevada State Legislature unanimously approved funding for a statewide cloud seeding initiative allocating $1.2 million over 2 years just for this effort alone. Now, here's what I find fascinating about this, Doctor. When we had this big, huge flood happen in Texas and all those people died and everything else, then we found out they were cloud seeding a day or two before. And they then said, this cloud seeding doesn't really do much. Now they're saying it does a ton, and we're going with it whole hog. Folks, we're being punked on this. I want water just as much as the other guys. But I'm just telling you, now their goal is to say, forget these ground generators. Now what they're saying is Utah researchers are also testing new drone technology that could allow seeding capabilities to be inserted right where the storms are. So they're in a backhanded way admitting that this aerial ability to manipulate weather is real. They're literally doubling down and admitting it to you now, Doctor.
Well, yeah, and like I say, that liars figure and figures lie, and statistics and all this kind of stuff, and maybe the people that are doing this are doing something that is overcoming what some other people have done with their nanoparticles in the atmosphere with the chemtrails. But we do know that over years, I mean, we're talking back in the late 60s over the Ho Chi Minh Trail, Operation Popeye, and the attempts to get more precipitation to make the trails more difficult to travel. They did Agent Orange too, and look at how deleterious this has been to millions of people's lives, whether they're Vietnamese that still live in the region or whether they're GIs that came home and now are dying by the droves because of the Agent Orange. We're always dinking around with things. And by the way, that cloud seeding kind of operation over Laos it helped add some days to the monsoon rains, but it was tested in the United States and the Philippines, numerous places around the world, and found to be somewhat effective. But are they just counteracting what other organizations, the right hand's doing one thing, the left hand doesn't know what's going on? As there's this chemtrail stuff going on that's having the water particles held in the sky longer, and they get out in the Midwest, and suddenly when they let loose, we got floods and all sorts of disastrous weather. So, there's so many things that are interactive, and we get a smattering of a story and we think, oh, our saviors are here, but they're not. And it's a tragic travesty that we continue to put our faith in this science of man. And I'm afraid that there's some downsides to some of the things that they're dinking around with.
I personally think they're playing God. And I think if you take the water out of the clouds, right here by force or whatever else, what are you going to cause in the jet stream down the road or whatever? What are you going to cause the weather to do when you put insert these chemicals and these modifying agents into this? I think it's disaster on steroids, but they're literally thinking about drones now to fly right to the center of the storm and then have this cloud seeding equipment be deployed. I think that they're going to create a disaster, Doctor. I think it's a lot like playing God. And what I find fascinating about this is they just want government instead of God to do everything. Why don't we pray to God for rain instead of just spend millions and billions of the taxpayers' dollars on cloud seeding equipment? I mean, I know the farmers of yesteryear and the Farmer's Almanac and everything else that, Johnny, the old farmer's like, hey, man, my hip's hurting, this rain's coming or whatever. And, they used to pray for rain and turn to God Almighty. Now we're just like, don't worry, we got drones and cloud seeding equipment. We got generators on the ground. We got this handled. But the more we tamper, we have no idea what the repercussions will be, do we?
The counterproductive things that are happening, we have no clue. I mean, we just, as you say, we continue to try and play God, and that. But by the way, what do we expect? We've got a secular humanist religion that's being taught in our public education system. Well,
when are we going to shut down the public education system? That's what we were promised.
But that's the problem, is we've got a faith-based system that it has no deity other than man's learning. And we teach the kids from their youngest of ages that God doesn't matter. We can handle it. We're the adjudicators of our everything. And I've got a number of presentations I make about the humanist religion and its place unconstitutionally as an established religion in the United States, taxpayer supported, and it violates the United States Constitution, and that's the basis of our education. So everybody believes, hey, man can do anything. Let's dink around with our atmosphere until we've dried it out here and got it wet there.
Too little and too much becomes the result of that manipulation. It's kind of like God knows the supply and knows the demand. Maybe we ought to leave it up to him. Maybe the free market, when it comes to weather, the ultimate weatherman is God Almighty is the point, folks. We need to realize that. I think they're playing with fire, pardon the pun. They're actually playing with water. All right, there you have it. For Dr. Scott Bradley, freedomsrisingsun.com. Check out his collegiate series To Preserve the Nation. Also sign up for his weekly webinars, Q&As on the Constitution. It's all available at freedomsrisingsun.com. I'm Sam Bushman. We are syndicated by the Loving Liberty Network. We keep an eye on everything that comes our way when it comes to liberty. God save our republic.